this time of year, the wrestling business, the wrestling news, not quite as heavy as other times of the year, but there's still quite a bit to talk about. And to help me discuss all of this, bringing on a good friend. He does such great work as the managing editor for WrestleZone.com. He is Bill Pritchard. Follow him on Twitter at bpritchard152. Bill, how's things in Philly?
Uh Fever pitch.
Yeah,
We were just talking before. Game 7, everybody's excited. Hopefully the Phillies win. We'll see what happens. So lots of excitement, and the Eagles are doing good. So
yes.
people are happy right now.
Well, that's yeah. See, of course, me being in Austin, Texas, the baseball. All right, be interesting. See who the Rangers. By the way, surprised that the Rangers are going to the World Series, first time in 2011. That was a heartbreak. As far as the Eagles go, Mama always said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And being a lifelong Cowboys fan, I'm just gonna keep it at that. No, I'm just kidding. I actually have several friends that played for the Eagles back in the day, and so yeah, the Eagles are doing it really well. Jalen Hurts, who is double jeopardy, by the way, because not only is he a Philadelphia Eagle, he's an Oklahoma Sooner. And I mean, it is just after 7 p.m. Central here in Austin, and OU still sucks. So let's just get that out of the way. So
well,
anyway,
hold on a second.
what?
Where do you draw the line? Because you kind of said, all right, I won't say anything about the Cowboys Eagles, but
Well, because that's a big rivalry.
I know, but how much bigger is it? The OU, it's the
Oh,
Red River shootout.
it's yeah. There's in part is because I went to Texas, so and of course I have many, many, many more friends that played for the Longhorns. So yeah, that college football rivalry, yeah, you know, it's gonna rear its ugly head. So
Okay.
the Cowboys, I have, because I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan, I'm also kind of a downtrodden Cowboys fan because we know they're not gonna be great.
It's
So
always
it's kind of like one of those, yeah, all right, whatever.
it's always your year next year.
It next year, always, yes, yeah. It's crazy like that. So I want to hit on WWE first, and I've got it. By the way, NXT is on right now. It's a week 1 of Halloween Havoc. How much are you following NXT?
I pretty much follow it every week. I don't watch live every week, just stuff comes up, but I at least try to catch up like Wednesday morning when I don't. So I have a pretty good feel of like all the storylines going on, especially now that it's kind of crossing over to Raw a little bit with Becky.
Yeah, that's what kind of one I want to get your impression of NXT because, especially the last several weeks with not only Becky Lynch as the NXT Women's Champion, but you have all the main roster stars that are coming on and everything. And I'm not just talking about when NXT went up against AEW a couple weeks ago, but it feels like NXT has really found a groove and they kind of know what they are and that's what they're going with. And it's turned into some pretty good television, quite frankly.
I really like where the brand's at now. Like, I think the NXT 2.0 is very polarizing. You either loved it or hated it. I don't think there was really an in between. Now that it got rid of the 2.0 designation and it's still developmental, whether they want to call it that or not, it still is. There's a definite difference between that show, Raw and SmackDown. But I think they kept the fun element and almost I'll call it the new generation element. Like, though there's a lot of stuff to like about the current NXT that I liked watching, like WWF Saturday Morning 1992, 93, when people were like, oh, the business is in the toilet, even though I was a kid and I didn't care about the business part. But there's just something to like about it where it still almost has that like takeover feel every few weeks, but then it's still doing the fun sort of letting talent experiment and find their way without a net. So I enjoy it for the most part. If I don't like something, I'm not super critical over it, but I feel like week in, week out, there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, it seems like every week they just put on a real solid television program. The wrestlers they have there, um, I would say probably a good at least 25-30% of them.
Mm-hmm.
If they had to wrestle on Raw or SmackDown, I think they could pull it off
Mm-hmm.
with relative ease. Tonight we're supposed to see the debut of Lexus King, the former Brian Pillman Jr. Give me your thoughts on Brian Pillman Jr. I mean, it is it's I don't know. I haven't quite gotten a feel of of him being in a WWE ring, NXT ring, and obviously again, so this will be the first time we see him tonight. But give me your thoughts on him.
I think doing a reset is a good idea. I'm not sure I like the name so much. I like the approach that they're taking as far as uh trying to give him an identity outside of just being Brian Pillman Jr. Like they did the same thing with Braun Breaker, even though a lot I think there was a lot more criticism over that. But I feel like anybody that says like AEW did him wrong or like missed the boat with him or I mean he's only a wrestler for what 2 or 3 years when he signed there,
I
like
believe so. Yeah,
maybe 4.
yeah.
So I think they did as much as they could with him there. I think he should have been in an environment like in NXT. I think like this is where he's gonna get kind of what I was saying about proving yourself working without a net, so to speak. Like I think this is where he's gonna get that time to see what works, what doesn't, instead of just going in and copycatting his dad almost. Like, yeah, you're gonna want that out of a legacy talent, but you still want to do your own thing. Charlotte Flair went through the same thing. Like it was like get rid of the last name, try to distance her as much as they can, and then they're like, okay, let's go back to it. But now she's made it her own too. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of the theme music and not ignoring her dad, but Charlotte has her own identity now, and I think that's what they want for Pillman. And just
Yeah, and I'm there with you. I like the fact they're trying to distance himself from his father. Um, I saw him. I saw him in MLW, and he was teaming with Davey Boy Smith Jr. and doing the new Heart Foundation stuff, and then of course part of the Varsity Blondes in AEW. Um, I do like that they've kind of gone away from the Pillman personality and like you said make him a his own man, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to see what he does on TV. They've had him wrestling on the house show loop
mm-hmm.
the last couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens. uh we saw Bianca Belair return on SmackDown after recovering from injury or whatever, inserted herself helping out Charlotte after she lost to Io Sky. This feels like could be setting up for Survivor Series, maybe a triple threat for Io's title. Give me your thoughts on that.
I like seeing Bianca back. I think I don't want to say she was sorely missed or the division was hurting while she was gone, but it's really good to see her back. I think she could be the ultimate baby face that all right. I was maybe gonna try to not say it, but I think she could be the baby face for the women that maybe like John Cena was for the men.
Yeah.
I think she just from day one, it just felt like it. Like and I think going against EO, I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I think, obviously the damage control element is there. Dakota's not there, but Bailey, EO, it can kind of give her an opponent along the way. So I do like that. I think Bailey and Bianca are, I still want to say, fresh enough of a matchup, even though they had several matches last year, and then there was the history with Bailey's injury, the almost match.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still a lot to revisit there. But then as far as Io, I think she's doing a great job. I think, once it's down to those two, so to speak, it's going to be a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it. I think Io has a lot she can show fans that maybe she hasn't been able to yet, because for the most part, Bailey was in the driver's seat of that group. Now even though they say they're doing it together, like, she's getting the chance to do that now.
Yeah. I do agree that, Bianca could become kind of the female John Cena, quite honestly. It felt like that was the direction they were going before her injury. I hope they can get back there, now that she's back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, have a big rivalry with her and EO. I think that would be really good. Let me ask you this. Now, I've talked to a couple of folks about this. So this coming Friday, they're going to have the contract signing Roman Reigns and LA Knight for the Universal title at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. And it floored me. So I saw something, I think it was from What Culture, and I looked it up, and sure enough. So since April 2nd, WrestleMania, you and I were there in Los Angeles. Roman defends against Cody Rhodes. Since then, so we are going now almost 7 months. Roman Reigns has defended the Universal title a grand total of 3 times, and 2 of those were at house shows against Rey Mysterio. So,
Sounds right.
so in 7 months, we have seen Roman Reigns defend the Universal title on television somehow 1 time, which,
and that was the tribal combat.
Yeah, it feels a little like, when Brock Lesnar had the title, and then he would go off and we would see him for 2 or 3 months, and then he'd pop up in time for one of the big 4 pay-per-views or whatever. Is Roman Reigns' part-time schedule making that Universal title almost something to be forgotten about?
I can see where somebody would make the argument, and I feel like the longer the reign goes on, or the more infrequent his appearances become, because then you're showing. And Heyman used to say this about Brock too. Like, he would say that Brock's an attraction. You tune in when he's back. It makes it feel like a big deal. But the longer Roman's not there, the more it shows that the roster that is there every week is the strength of the show. Where maybe some people will say Roman's an addition, but maybe it's a detraction. Like, I get being part-time, like, you've earned that schedule, do whatever you want. Like, I think he has 5 kids or 6 kids, like, and 2 sets of twins. So you want to be home, like, that's awesome, like, more power to you. But I would, if they could get him involved in the show some way, whether it's a pre-tape or, like, I don't need to see him wrestle every week. Like, I get that. It's just, there needs to be a little bit more involvement. Like, if you want the title that he has to be as important as it is, because then you look at Gunther, who's there regularly, killer title reign that's still going. Seth Rollins on the Raw side wants to defend the title every week. you have a great champion. So like the amount of time that Roman spends off of TV, I feel like the more people are gonna sit there and compare, like, well, here's what we have now. So I think you need to get him on TV to remind people why he's the champion, because every single month you're gonna be like, he should drop it to Cody, Jay, now LA Knight, even though they're all deserving. You still have that doubt the more he's not there.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You mentioned about Paul Heyman talking about Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar was an attraction. I say he didn't need the title to be an attraction. It's you
Mm.
just needed Brock Lesnar. So like I said, they keep touting this 1100 and however many day reign. Well, it's kind of easy to have that long of a reign when you only defend the title,
Mm-hmm.
once every 7 months. I mean, boxing is better than that. So it just you're right, and I think, look, and I will gladly, I have a personal friendship with the Rhodes, especially with Dustin. So I really thought Cody would have won in Los Angeles, and to this day, there's not really anybody that can give me a valid argument
Mm-hmm.
as to why that would have been bad. Because I think it would have been, especially seeing what Roman is doing now, it feels more and more like Cody needs to get that title off of him. I get, at WrestleMania 40 there in Philadelphia. So, um, we'll see what happens. And look, and I love LA Knight, Eli Drake, whatever you want to call him. I've enjoyed his work going all the way back to Impact. He's fantastic. Nobody expects him to win the title. And I'll be honest, anybody that thinks Roman's dropping that title before WrestleMania, I think is a little bit foolish there. So uh it
I
does go ahead.
I think the good thing about this match is LA Knight's so popular right now that even if he does lose, like, I think he'll rebound because he'll still have the people behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with, like, just, I don't know, that was set up so well
Yeah.
for Cody to win at WrestleMania. Like, and
What?
then you look like Tribal Combat with, I'm fine with them doing that, but like, it didn't need the title because you were making Tribal Chief title more important than the WWE title. So if you're already putting them in that position, why was why didn't they make the switch?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I think WrestleMania 40 is when it happens, and I still think it should be Cody.
Yeah. I
Somehow he's going to end up on SmackDown, or he's going to, I don't know. Ever since that he used his political pull or whatever he said to get Jay on Raw, I feel like something's going to pan out where he ends up on the same show as Roman again.
Yeah, I think so. Although, the way they've been, look, the brand split is not, it's not like before. I think they broke the brand split 3 weeks after the draft. So, even if he doesn't end up on SmackDown full time, he'll go there for somehow to challenge Roman. Um, Survivor Series is coming up, and we can feel it already. Now you're teasing the tension between Nick Aldis, who's the SmackDown GM, and Adam Pearce, who's the Raw GM. Which, by the way, I guess to be a general manager, you got to be a former NWA World Champion. So, uh, give me your. I tell you what, let's look at the crystal ball a little bit. As far as the men's, we assume it's going to be War Games again. Feels like it's going to be War Games again. Which teams do you see getting into that double cage at Survivor Series?
If I'm if I'm betting, I'm gonna say that there's gonna be a men's and a women's match.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be Raw versus SmackDown. You gotta think the Bloodline and Cody and KO and Sammy are involved somehow.
Yeah.
Even though KO and Sammy got split, I think that relationship, there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of layers over the years, but I think that could add an interesting dynamic by now making them fight because of Raw and SmackDown. Uh, Judgment Day probably fills out the team from Raw. I mean, Judgment Day and Sammy wouldn't be a bad lineup for Raw. Uh, yeah, I think that's really the one I'm sure about. And I think this one's more of a wild card and armchair booking, but I think we see either a trade or somebody defect to one show or the other, especially with how they did that the New Day and Nick thing this week.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not them, but I think somebody jumps.
that's possible. Something I don't know. Something tells me as far as the War Games matches, I'm not sure it will be that brand specific because I think, like for instance, I could see the Bloodline and the Judgment Day, at least
Mm-hmm.
parts of them teaming together. So like it's
Mm-hmm.
Finn, Damian, Jimmy, and Solo
Mm-hmm.
against four baby faces with Cody, Sammy, Kevin, and Jay.
Yeah.
So it just feels like that. I think we will see some. I could see, like, say, Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, taking on, I guess, I guess Rey Mysterio's the United States Champion, so I could see that happening.
For now.
I could see maybe Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, although feels like that one they're going to save for WrestleMania. It'll be fun to see, what they build after they get through Crown Jewel. So, uh, speaking of Crown Jewel, Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest is now official. They tried to Pillmanize Cody Rhodes' ankle, but he was able to, hobble out there and fight off the bad guys at the end of the show. Um, I've heard a little bit of talk, and we've had these Saudi Arabia shows for several years now. Uh, and yet I still hear people say they're not going to watch it because it's Saudi Arabia sports washing, trying to sports wash their reputation. They're
Mm-hmm.
hosting the Tyson Fury fight coming up this weekend. Give me your thoughts. What do you think about this? The Crown Jewel, Saudi Arabia. Is it worth watching? Is it do the political feelings detract from watching what usually is a pretty good show?
I don't think it does as much anymore because they've gone over so much. The first 2 years, and especially all the off-air stuff that did or didn't happen, or the stuff with the flight and all that, like
Mm-hmm.
it definitely did not help the perception of what the purpose of those shows were. Now, I do watch them primarily because I cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my job, but the past couple of years have actually been really, really good shows. I think once that, uh, and I think this could have been a lot of speculation on fans' part, but just trying to be like, oh, it's a second WrestleMania, or they're getting a WrestleMania level card. Like WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It's always going to be its own thing. And now that you've just established, let's go put it on a really good show at Crown Jewel and it doesn't feel as, I'm trying to think of the right, like it doesn't feel as much of a gimmick, and it's including the current storylines. Like I think it has a really good flow to it. There's really great matches. It's not like the I don't even remember the belt that Braun won, the green one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The the greatest Royal Rumble.
yeah, like stuff like that. Like they don't do that anymore, and it feels more natural, and it feels more important to current storylines where they're including it instead of what I Two-Quake Cup or something. I forget what it was, but yeah, the green belt. Like
Yeah.
it's like he didn't do anything after it. He might have it at home as like a memento, but I have enjoyed the past couple shows.
Yeah.
First couple years, I was like, this is not for me. But they've had some great main events. The women's matches have been better. You've seen more inclusion there, so I think that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm there with you. I'm there with you.
I'm concerned about the heat,
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah.
especially
You're out there.
as long as everybody comes home safe and everybody that wants to be there or everybody that is there wants to be there. I think that's all you can care about at the end of the day. But I always think back to Goldberg. I know it's Goldberg and Undertaker, but something like that. You always want to make sure that you avoid something like that we knew in live time was not how it was supposed to go.
Right. Right. Undertaker is launching his own Patreon podcast, 6 Feet Under with Mark Calloway. Are you gonna check it out?
Uh, I might see what he has on there first. It's certainly interesting. A guy that has done so much press after years of not doing press and talking about Hell in a Cell and the One Dead Man Show. I'm curious to see if he, not if he has more to talk about, but what he wants to talk about, or what is on there. So it could be interesting because you always go to the Hell in the Cell and WWE Championship and the higher power. Like there's all these kind of staples or benchmarks. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
That you always talk about with him, but I'd like to explore some of the deep cuts. So if that stuff's on there, I might check it out.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be
Like
interested in
Bone
that.
Street Crew,
Yeah, I
like
that
the backstage.
that's kind of interesting. I know he's made a few more appearances. Of course, he lives in Southwest Austin. So you once in a blue moon you'll see him around town, either at Longhorn football or something like that. So, um, yeah, there might be a few things I want to hear him trying to break in at the Sportatorium, and I've
Mm-hmm.
heard the story once. He actually told it. He went to Longhorn football practice a couple years ago, told it to the players, talked about waiting outside Fritz's office and such. So yeah, I think that could be interesting. So
You
uh
know if this is his? Like, is it him on his own or is it WWE?
it from everything that I've read, it doesn't sound like it's a WWE production, and
Because
especially
that'll
the
give him
fact
a
he's
lot.
using his real name in the title
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's him.
Because that would give him a lot more freedom to talk about some of the
Yes,
Dallas and WCW if he wanted to.
I agree. I agree. Switching gears to AEW. So last week on Dynamite, the Icon Sting has announced that he had his first match in AEW at Revolution in 2021. His final match of his 30, almost 40-year career is going to be at Revolution in March of 2024. Give me, if you had your choice, what would that match be?
I'm gonna say he still teams with Darby because they've talked about that before. And I think the best opponent would be Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. He has the connection from WCW. He has the connection with TNA. There's very easy to build to that, even if they started in January or February. I think it makes a lot of sense to have Jeff, especially, but Jeff and Jay in there. That's if
Yeah.
it's a tag match.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Jarrett, of course, would be a good one. Um, Maybe him and Jericho if it's a singles. It's hard to fathom. I mean, look, Sting has been. He is in my fandom. He's up there with almost up there with Dusty, for totally different reasons. But to think of, I saw him when he was still with the Blade Runners. In fact, I saw him live on a Mid South card in East Texas in 80. This was 86, I think. And it was him and, of course, the man that would be known as the Ultimate Warrior, as the Blade Runners. I think they were facing Ted DiBiase and Steve Dr. Death Williams at the time. And I think DiBiase and Williams were the Mid South Tag Team Champions. And so to go from that through his run in Crockett and then WCW and TNA and the brief stint in WWE and now his run in AEW, it's hard to believe that we knew it was coming, but still kind of hard to believe that the day is coming when Sting will no longer be in the ring, and it'll be that's going to be a huge celebration. I'll be interested. They've advertised that tomorrow night on Dynamite, Tony Khan has a gift for Sting, so it'll be interesting to see what that is. We'll see. We saw both John Moxley and House of Black, and particularly Malachi Black, return at Collision. It feels like now that they've gotten past the whole CM Punk drama, it feels like Collision is now. It doesn't feel like a separate show. It feels like it's in canon with Dynamite, Rampage a little bit, but feels like it's in line with those. Give me your thoughts on Mox and Malachi being back.
I like that there's a little more cohesiveness to the shows. I never thought that they should do a hard brand split. I think it should be loose, like loosely defined. Sometimes you see, if there's a feud that starts on Wednesday and they want to continue it on Saturday, like, and that natural progression's there, do it that week. If you can wait, a week or two, whatever it is, and you want to just only do it on Wednesdays because that's what it makes sense, great. I think Moxley's going to help, and Malachi, not to leave him out, but they both kind of have that edge where I think you're gonna see Collision remain a little bit edgier show, even though they've done some ridiculous stuff on Dynamite. So I think that's a good fit for them there. But I think you're still going to see a guy like Mox crossover and be on both shows because he's still, I'll argue, the most important signing that they've had. I know Jericho was the first big star to let you know that AEW was legit, but I still feel like Moxley was more important where they were at that time.
Yeah. I agree with you about Mox. And so, yes, I think we will see him cross over on both shows. And I'm with you. I'm not sure you even call it a brand split. I think it's simply you might have wrestlers that just prefer to work on Saturdays. That's fine,
Yeah, if they want to do that, that's great. Let them have the option.
Yeah, give them that freedom. Um, we saw on, I guess it was on Collision, Jeff Jarrett beat Eddie Kingston in a Memphis street fight. Of course, he had help. So now Kingston will defend the Ring of Honor world title against Jay Lethal, who, is synonymous with that championship. I want to ask you, and especially with you situated there in Philadelphia, how how much regard do you have for the Ring of Honor world title now?
I
Is it
think it's
important?
I think it still is. I think by putting it on TV like this, putting it in an important position, not just on Ring of Honor TV, but like the spot that Jay finds himself in now. Sorry, uh, it's obviously not on the same level as the AEW championships, but I feel like Eddie can do a lot with the title.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's only getting started. Claudio did a great job with the title. I thought Jericho was going to have a much longer reign than he did. So, as far as Tony owning Ring of Honor is concerned, I think they've had a few good champions so far. It's just they need to do a little bit more work if they want to make it as prestigious as it used to be or could be.
Yeah, I think you're right. By the way, they have announced Ring of Honor Final Battle will be Friday, December 15th. It's going to happen up in the Metroplex at the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, just outside of Dallas. And it's going to show exclusively on Honor Club. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not even putting it on pay per view. So you have to subscribe to Honor Club to see it. Of course, let's see. I think
Fans should be happy about that. You're saving $40.
that's true. That's very true. So that could be a maybe that's what we start to see, where we'll see the Ring of Honor pay-per-views move to Honor Club, to where that saves because especially you hear the talk, they that the push to try to get AEW to do more and more pay-per-views, which I'm not a big fan of. What do you think?
I don't want to see 12 a year. I know Tony said he never said that. He just said he was open to expanding the calendar because I'm paraphrasing, but he said it's a good business move. I forget his exact quote, but I wouldn't mind seeing him go 6, maybe 8. If you think about what they run now, winter is coming seems like a very obvious choice to become a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
You have Fighter Fest, Forbidden Doors already part of it, so you have pieces that you can move around. I liked the quarterlies, but obviously, and if everything is 100% accurate, this is Warner pushing for more pay-per-views too.
Yeah.
I just think he should push back and maybe say, let's try 6, let's try 8, see how this goes, instead of just jumping from 5 to 12.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think 6 is a good number.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you still want them to be special. And doing 12, look, we've seen it with WWE. It ends up a lot, several of those pay-per-views. Now they've gotten better over the last year or so,
Mm-hmm.
but there were times when some of those pay-per-views, they were mediocre Raws at best.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm there with you. So by the way, it's kind of funny. So this the Ring of Honor Final Battle is gonna be on Friday. They've got AEW set up in the Metroplex all that week because I think Dynamite is at College Park, which is University of Texas at Arlington, and then Collision, I believe, is at Curtis Colwell Center in Garland as well. So so Tony's going to be camping out in the Metroplex for uh good part of that week in middle December. So
They
uh
love Texas, man.
hey,
I know you're partial, but I think besides
well,
Daly's place, they've been to Garland the most.
they have they really love the Metroplex.
Mhm.
And now they're using the like I say College Park Center there at UT Arlington where the Mavericks play, the UT Arlington Mavericks, not the Dallas
Mhm.
Mavericks. But yeah, and you mentioned Winter is Coming. He's had Winter is Coming in Dallas
Mhm.
the last several,
2 years, right?
2 years at least. So it feels like okay, I guess this is going to be the yearly thing to be up in the Metroplex. I I joke with Dustin, in fact, when they had Dynamite and Rampage at the Fort Bend Epicenter in Rosenberg, just outside of Houston, and
Mhm.
he loves it because he can just drive, from here.
Yeah.
It's probably about a 3 hour drive from where we are in the northern edge of Austin,
Mhm.
to get to actually to either get to Houston or to Dallas. So it
Mhm.
works out beautifully. Um, let's see. Rampage started out with Mystico and Rocky Romero. Best 2 out of 3 falls. Mystico gets the victory. And apparently this was like a CMLL, pound for pound best luchador, kind of starting a relationship between AEW and CMLL. Uh, Give me your review of that match and whether this could be something, the start of something nice with AEW and CMLL teaming, partnering together.
It was a really, really good match, and considering the Rampage has, I'll say, become the B show,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's not fair, but it's taped after Dynamite. It's not live as much as they said it was going to be. But every few weeks, they have some really, really great matches, and this was one of them. Uh, I'd like to see more of this. I'd like, and again, not brand split, not anything like the Dynamite Collision sort of relationship, but I'd like to see more exclusive talent like this just get a chance to show out on a show like that, especially if you're trying to pull in viewers.
Yeah.
It's hard to it's hard not to pay attention to the AAA CMLL. I don't even know what the entire story is between. As far as short
I
version, rival promotions, they do not like one working with the other and vice versa.
Right. Right.
To
And
the
they
point,
and even like so AEW, you can't have a CMLL wrestler
in
and
the same ring
a
with,
AAA wrestler in the same room.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a total, they don't want to be associated with each other.
like it's crazy that as much as people talk about WWE and everybody else in, as far as the United States goes, and like this seems like way, way deeper than that,
Mm-hmm.
and a little more, I'm gonna say petty. I get, it seems right, because I've heard some stories about this one said this about this guy, and then it's like back and forth snipping at each other, and then some of it's a little bit more obvious, like, no, you're not working with them, like you're not going to be in the same ring as
Right.
that guy. So
Yeah.
I mean, if we get guys like Mystico, like, for me as an AEW fan, I would love to see it more. As
Absolutely.
far as the long-term relationship, I hope for AEW's sake it works out. I don't know how it affects AAA, but I think running.
That's okay.
I think they're doing the best they can with it. I
Yeah.
mean, they're the company that
Well,
has the Forbidden Door show, so
and that's the thing, with their relationship with New Japan, and we know New Japan has a relationship with CMLL, so it kind of feels like AAA might get left in the dirt a little bit, or at least, they it might be limited to where They may have a couple AAA wrestlers on there. Well, of course, they do now with Penta and Ray Phoenix and LFI and such. But it might be where if AAA is there, they don't bring in New Japan or CMLL or vice versa. It just so weird about that. So
Penta's a good example of that too. The whole
yes,
thing with what name he can use, what trademarks he owns. I think it's so confusing. Like, I know we ran a story a couple years ago. Like, we found out about why he changed his name in AEW after he was already using whatever. I think he was using Pentagon Junior, and then he changed it to Penta L0M, and it was like just that sort of politicking stuff with AAA, and it's just so it affects way too much, especially like us as a viewer.
yeah, yeah,
It
I
it
agree.
it happens way too much.
It really does. I agree. Uh, this week they've got Santana against Ortiz, and they are diving into the real life acrimony between the two, using it as a storyline. Are you comfortable with that? Because this feels like they got to tread carefully on, when it comes to whatever feelings there are between Santana and Ortiz, to turn that into a match. We know they're professionals, but hey, sometimes those feelings can get a little dicey. Tell me what you think.
If they're okay with it, go make money. I think this is the sort of feud that a lot of people were asking for when it was still CM Punk against the Elite. Like, put your feelings aside, go make money, do good, you know, do good business, and put that first. Obviously, that didn't happen, but if they're really not on talking terms, and it's really just we can work with each other, because I think one of them said that about the other when they first came back. They were like, yeah, we really don't talk. I said we would work the well, I can't remember the match where both of them were in it when they just returned.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just like, yeah, we could work together. We made it work. We're professionals. So if they're comfortable working with each other now, then I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. Go make money. Before I let you go, we had the announcement after Bound for Glory. Impact Wrestling is going to rebrand itself. They're going back to the past, and they're going to become TNA Wrestling again, starting with the Hard to Kill pay-per-view on January 13th, and it'll be that way going forward. Give me your thoughts on Impact Wrestling once again becoming TNA Wrestling.
It makes sense. It's a full circle thing. The name is juvenile. It's crass. Like, we all know what they were getting at back then, and people are still going to make the jokes. But there was a lot more stability, and I'm saying that with like a, you know,
I get you.
I'm treading carefully.
Yes.
But I feel like there was a lot more stability with the TNA name than there was with the end of that era going into Impact, where now it's like, oh, Impact is still on. And I watch that show almost every week live, where I praised the show and said it was the most consistently booked show out of anything on TV for several months. I definitely would say through the pandemic, they had some of the best shows. But I feel like there was more stability with the name itself. Maybe not all of the other stuff going on. But when you think of TNA, you think of the X Division, you think of the Knockouts, they still do those things very well. So if they want to do it and they still have the right to, again, it goes back to if it's helping your business, that's great. My main gripe was I didn't like how they went back to the original McDonald's colors with the X behind the TNA word mark.
Right.
I thought they should have just done like the TNA in red and like no X behind it. I
Okay.
just thought it looked a little cleaner.
All right.
They did use it for, I guess it was towards the end of the TNA era, but
Yeah.
they actually used that one that I'm thinking of. It was actually on their Hall of Fame logo too.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a little cleaner, but I mean the jokes are going to be there, but if it helps them with business and it helps attract fans, why not?
Yeah. I think it could be fun. They say the chance has been out there, so they're gonna go into it. And so, hey, more power to them. He is Bill Pritchard, the managing editor for WrestleZone.com. Follow him on Twitter at bpritchard152. Bill, I appreciate this, man. Had a lot of fun. If you don't mind, I'm gonna keep you info and may ask you back on here every now and again. We'll just chop it up. But I appreciate it. All the best to you.
I would love to do that. This was fun. Always getting a chance to catch up with you is always fun. And I just thought back to the Ortiz match. It was either the Anarchy in the Arena or Blood and Guts. I don't know why I just thought of that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
that's where I was going with that.
I understand.
But hey,
I understand. I appreciate it. Thanks, Bill.
thank you.